in the year 2000.
Yeah. Wow.
I was having to edit out that Conan O'Brien in the year 2000. Yeah, so 2000, I was fully ordained as a minister in the United Methodist Church.
You have to watch out when you do that. Whitney makes bloopers.
Matt and Buffy Payne are a couple driven by purpose through their nonprofit Outer Circle Foundation and faith-based organizations like Few and Dudes. Their mission is clear: to spark positive change, empower others, and build a better world, one connection at a time. She is Chick. He is Dude. Welcome to the Chicken Dude Stuff podcast.
Hey everyone, welcome to
Chick
and Dude
Stuff
and Stuff.
No stands.
Anyway, that's a different story. But yeah, so welcome for another edition, and we are so honored to have Pastor Mark from Hope Church with us today.
Great to be here.
Yeah, we are going to have a lot of fun.
Get ready.
I'm ready.
Buckle up.
Came ready.
Buckle up. We're going to have some fun today. So, kind of, I mean, we know you talk a lot about your childhood and mom and dad and growing up and things like that. So kind of let everybody know where you're from, what growing up was like.
So yeah, sure. I am a native of the metro Atlanta area, grew up in Cobb County, Southwest Cobb. Had an opportunity to go to Pebblebrook High School as part of the performing arts program there. That was a fantastic experience. I'm pretty shy by nature, and so that opportunity helped teach me some stage presence and to kind of come out of my shell a little bit. And while I was also there at Pebblebrook, I started working over the summers at Six Flags over Georgia, which was a fantastic experience. To meld the experience I had at Pebblebrook and as well at Six Flags, I was really able to kind of come into my own self, to get comfortable in my skin. I think it's probably the safest way to put that. And it also, I moved into middle management there, had a great time running the rides and learning about management and how to work budgets and things like that, people skills. But probably the biggest thing that came out of the 9+ years where I worked at Six Flags was I got to meet my bride there, Tiffany. And so we met there back in 1995, had a wonderful relationship there. And of course, we've been together leaving Six Flags and moving into more of our full-time career vocations, both in the church. It was great. My dad was a hearing officer, administrative hearing officer. So think about a judge. He was appointed to that position, oversaw tax cases in the state of Georgia, primarily with motor vehicle and alcohol, things like that. And just a cute little trivia, he was the first deputized ATF agent in the state of Georgia.
Oh, wow.
For the state's version of the ATF. Yeah. So that was really an honorary thing. Sadly, my dad contracted kidney cancer and he passed away after a very short battle. But after that, my mom was still with me the whole time. Mom was an educator. She did music, special education. And then with the illness of my dad, she left the school system and really dove into her work at the church. And it was through all of those where I came to experience my faith in Christ. of the church we grew up, Trinity United Methodist in Austell. And so I put the really strong family relationships that we had with going to high school, learning performing arts, working at Six Flags, meeting my bride, and it put me on a path that set me to where I am today. It's a trajectory I'm still following. So I'm grateful for that God had his hand on me at a very young age.
So did you have any desire? I guess your dad was an attorney.
Yes.
No, any desire to go into law and kind of follow dad?
Yeah, I thought about that some, and I talked to my dad about that some, and he really didn't want that for me. And I don't want to say he wanted ministry for me either. I think he had different ideas or thoughts for me, but he really did not want me to go into law. And law was one of those for him that when he was practicing privately, and he did some work as a defense attorney and just did basic family law type stuff. Yep. He found it to be kind of to use the technical term, icky, I guess. Yeah. And so when he had the opportunity to work for the state, he really enjoyed doing that and listening to cases and making decisions on the law. He did that better. And so by the time I really experienced my call to ministry to a point where I was ready to proceed, he was a little unsure about me going into theology full time, but I mean, very strong faith. I think he had seen enough on how sometimes life in the church can be a challenge, and he wasn't necessarily sure he wanted that for me. But anyway, so that was how it went. I was still in seminary when he passed away, and so he never really got to see me living in my ministry life. But he was there. He passed away 2 weeks to the day before our first child was born.
Oh, wow.
So he got to know he was going to be a granddad, and got to see both of my brother and sister married. And so that was great. Still has a strong legacy with me in my heart.
Yep.
Awesome.
Yep. And how old were you when you made that decision? Okay, I want to go into ministry and I want to be a pastor.
Still haven't made it.
Still working on that.
Yeah, still working on that. Yeah,
What do I want to be when I grow up?
It's a discernment process. No, but all kidding aside, when I was 14 years old, the pastor at the church where we were going, like I said, Trinity in Austell, passed away suddenly, and we were in his memorial service, and it was in that memorial service where I really felt the presence of God in my soul like I never felt before, and I really felt come to life Christ saying, I want you to help to liberate the oppressed, to bring hope to the grieved, and to live into the gospel. And so really from about the time I was 14 years old, I started a trajectory that would lead me to the ministry.
Gotcha.
Now, when I went to graduate high school, went to college, I think I probably had about 11 different majors before I finally settled on the one, because I was searching all kinds of things. And I did get my undergraduate in social psychology, which has been just so beneficial in the ministry. And then as soon as I was graduated from Georgia State, I was admitted into the seminary at Emory University, and I went on to Emory. So it looks like a very seamless transition. But during that time when I was 14 to, I'd say 2021, I was pretty unsure how I wanted to live into my call to ministry, because I thought about teaching, I thought about counseling, which I do a lot of that nowadays too. But it was really through that discernment process that I really felt God calling me to work and be in the church.
So how old were you when you had Ethan?
25, I guess.
25.
I probably should have that memorized by now, but I think about 25. Yeah, so maybe even a little bit younger, because he'll be 24 and I'm 51. So anyway, that's where the math is.
But right about there.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
So you were already done with seminary?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I was in my first full time with the United Methodist Church. It was called an appointment, where we were sent by the bishop to serve a church, serve a community, really more technically accurate.
Right.
And so we were in our first full time place. While I was in seminary, Tiffany and I worked at a church where I was a part-time youth pastor and did associate pastor type work. And so full time, it was a fairly large church in Marietta, and I got to do a lot of cutting my teeth in aspects of working and serving in a church.
Right.
Learning the ways.
That's right, learning the ways.
So for those that don't know, right, you graduate from seminary. So you graduate from Emory.
That's
and
right.
you have a doctorate.
The Emory degree was a master's in theology.
Okay.
So I have my master's in theology from Emory.
Okay. And then you went on and got
I did. 2012, I was graduated with a doctorate of ministry in Christian counseling and Christian psychology.
Okay.
Counseling.
So you get done with seminary. How do you know, like, where to go and what to do? Like, did you grow up in the Methodist church?
I did.
Okay. So you're just going to follow the path that you've always had?
Correct.
Okay.
And it's a really good process. They serve you or sync you up with some mentors along the way at different stages of their ministry in their life and your ministry in life. And so I had several mentors that I worked with. And then once you have to go through like a boards process, you will with medicine or law. And once you go through a board process, then there was another 3-year probationary period where you served in the church, you continued to work with a mentor, but you also met with an accountability group for prayer, for education, and for evaluation. And so 4 years of undergrad, 3 years of seminary, and then at least another 3 years of evaluation and further study. And then I was fully ordained in the year 2000.
Wow.
goodness.
I was having to edit out that Conan O'Brien in the year 2000. Yeah, so 2000, I was fully ordained as a minister in United Methodist Church.
You have to watch out when you do that. Whitney makes bloopers.
Oh yeah.
I've seen some of y'all's bloopers, so yeah.
Trust me. You will be on the best of 2026.
Yeah, with that little joke right there.
So always a Georgia Bulldog fan.
Always, yeah. Mom and Dad met at the University of Georgia. My dad was in the Redcoat Marching Band, and Mom was in the pep band. So that when the Redcoats were getting ready for their halftime show, the pep band would do the stuff in the stands. But Georgia Florida game, 1969. Mom and Dad met there, and so it's been the rest is history. Yeah, but as I announced in church this past Sunday, I'm going to have some divided allegiances.
Hold on.
Okay. Yeah, we'll get there.
We'll get there.
All right.
We got to work. We got to work into that.
You got to plan.
Yeah.
He has a plan. He just forgot to tell the rest.
That's right.
So, Mom, musician.
Yes.
Focused on one instrument, or did she just play everything and anything?
She primarily focused on piano and voice.
Okay.
So my mom's classically trained. Graduated with a music degree from the University of Georgia.
Right.
Primarily piano and voice,
Okay.
and so great. But she also learned some other instruments along the way.
Right.
I think in the pet band she played clarinet, if I'm not mistaken. So
and what about that?
Dad was a trumpet player.
Trumpet player.
Dad was an on-the-field trumpet player coach. So when I was in middle school, before I got into performing arts stuff, I played trumpet in the band. I wanted to follow my dad's footsteps. But that was fantastic. And then we dabbled a little bit some at the church when I was growing up. We had a church orchestra, just a few pieces, but I got to play with my dad.
Oh.
And so those are some pretty cool memories. My dad was first trumpet. I was second trumpet. We bounced around a little bit with that.
That's cool.
So I followed in his footsteps.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And Mom is still here.
Yep.
And she's local.
That's right.
And at church every Sunday.
Every Sunday.
And here, and so Ethan's here, and you guys are progressing along with him, and then walk us through kind of the adoption and kind of how that transpired.
Absolutely, because that really gets into kind of the nuts and bolts of our story.
Yeah.
Apart from the church, but not apart from ministry, and it all syncs up. But so I can remember Tiffany and I thinking after Ethan was about 2 years old, we wanted to start to have another child, and the process was not. It actually never worked. We never had another biological child.
Yeah.
It wasn't for for. I was about to say something needed to be edited out, Whitney. So I'm going to make sure. Yeah, I'm going to make sure that it got edited out. So, it wasn't for lack of trying. But anyway, so we went through all kinds of fertility treatments and things. And I can remember sitting with one of the specialists along the way, and she asked, "How long did it take y'all to conceive Ethan?" And we said something like 4 months. And she says, "Your age and you're both in relatively great health, both in good health. It shouldn't have taken that long." And so anyway, that started a process where there were multiple failed pregnancies along the way. Most of them were very early on within the first few weeks. Probably there were some that we weren't even aware of, but there were a couple where she was already into the second trimester, where we already knew the gender of the baby and we already had a name picked out. And those became devastating for us.
Right.
And the loss of those, there's one in particular, a little boy, and I've named him in my mind Logan because I wanted him to have an identity. But he perished in the second trimester, and it was at that point the specialist that we were seeing, an endocrinologist, told us it was time to just let go,
Right.
and to look at other avenues, because we did not want to go all the way with IVF.
Yep.
So we decided we weren't going to do that. We went all the way up to that. We did not want to go all the way to IVF, and so the doctor said, if you don't want to take this next step, really what probably was the last step, to look at something along the lines of adoption. And so from there, we got involved with the foster care system. We went through all the foster care training, and that was good. But ironically, we never got a placement.
Right.
For whatever reason. There just was a stop there. We never got a placement. It could have been because of our faith or working in the church. No judgment, right? I'm just saying we never got a placement.
Right.
And so we decided to move into the private adoption aspect. And so we adopted our first child. We named her Mia Noel. Whole big story with that. But we adopted her from China. and brought her home in 2015. And it was kind of interesting because she was born in the suburb of Wuhan, which of course became really globally known during the COVID-19 pandemic. And so sadly, Mia, we found out a month to the day we got her home, she was epileptic. And so she passed away in 2019 from a catastrophic seizure, actually passed away in her sleep. And that was the hardest thing that I've ever had to go through. Yeah. I'm the one who found her deceased in her bed. The medical examiner estimated that she had been passed about 3 hours or so by the time I found her. What was also difficult with that was, not to mention that we had done all of these treatments and we had gone into some debt with medical care and things like that. But what really proved to be hard was for at least just a couple days, we were investigated as though we were the cause of her death. And that created a traumatic stress within me that I still fight every single day. To think that if all that we had done and all that we had provided for that child and that we were suspected in wrongdoing for her passing, it was horrific. Now, to be fair to the state, she did bite her tongue and severed part of it, so there was a tremendous amount of blood when she was discovered. And so I'm not saying that the authorities didn't have reason just looking at it, but of course the autopsy showed that we were fine and we were cleared from any wrongdoing. But that was a really difficult thing. But before we actually lost our Mia, a couple months before that, we had gone back to the adoption agency to start a second adoption. And of course, when Mia passed away, they told us to hold our horses for about a year. That was in August of 2019. And then of course, COVID came. So we had to go through a process of several years of just waiting. So by the time we got to 2021, we decided we wanted to, it was now or never with our age, because we were beginning to bump up against the age limits. And so we submitted our paperwork to adopt again, and had almost as much difficulty with that as we did early on with some of our pregnancy loss and miscarriage, because no matter what ended up happening, we would get matched with children, and then those matches would be lost or severed or something like that. And so Tiff and I were just really beginning to wonder, is this God's plan for us? Are we supposed to just be happy now as our son's graduating college and, empty nester and that kind of thing? And really, y'all come into the story about here. I don't want to jump the gun again by any means, but
because what you just mentioned, we're going to get to that, because that plays in heavily when we got involved.
Absolutely.
With things.
Absolutely. So to kind of fast forward there, it was the 4th of July weekend, and Tiff and I decided we were going to go out to visit her sister and brother-in-law who live in Cheyenne, Wyoming. They own and operate a transportation company. And so we're going to go out there for the 4th of July and just kind of allow all the stress and the grief from losing Mia and severed adoptions and things like that to just kind of pass, and then to find out, is God really calling us to this? Before our plane even landed in Denver, we had a message from our social worker, and she said, "Call me as soon as you can. I got good news." Now, my mind immediately goes to the two little sisters that we had been matched with before. Maybe their adoption fell through, and we were going to be selected for them after all. But that wasn't the case at all. And so, kind of backtracking just a little bit, we get our stuff off the luggage carousel, and we meet up with the family, and we're driving, leaving Denver, heading toward Cheyenne, Wyoming, and we decide to stop off in a little town called Brighton, Colorado, at an Arby's, where we called our caseworker. I called our caseworker, and she's like, "Mark, are you sitting down? Are you ready for this? This never happens, but the orphanage over in Taiwan that severed your previous match has another match for you." And never explained that we perhaps didn't get the two sisters because of this one situation. But she wanted to know, are you interested in looking at a file? And so we said, yeah, we'll look at her file. And I tell you what, it was divinely inspired. It was providence. This little child, she was the youngest. The reports are incomplete or inaccurate or a combination of the two. She's the youngest of either one or 3 or 4. And the mother had been, was homeless. The mother had some addiction issues. And so all the children had been removed from the home and placed into foster care, except for this one little girl who was in the orphanage. And they were trying to find someone who would adopt her. primarily because the family members who had taken other children did not want a baby. They were already raising multiple older children. And one of them was severely special needs. I got to mention that as well. So they asked if we'd be interested in looking at her file. Otherwise, healthy. They had some things they wanted us to explore. So the caseworker's like, Mark, this never happens. We never get a baby who is healthy, who the agency or the orphanage over there comes and says, we want to have this family adopt this child. Are you interested? And we said, yes, absolutely. And we went through all the process with that. And we hit a couple snags, which is really where y'all get involved in the story. But up until that, we had been wondering, why did we seem to keep hitting all these brick walls and these, these closed doors? And it occurred to us that this child was not even born when we started the process. That every time we hit an apparent dead end, it probably was God's providential hand saying, hold on, I got something in store for you. I just need you to be a little patient. And of course, patience proved to be a huge part of that story as well. So yeah,
she's coming.
She's coming.
She's coming.
She's coming. And yeah.
So I don't know how it worked, but we got involved, and it was one, we couldn't find the mom, and we needed her for paperwork. But then also the state got involved again. And that brought up some old wounds as well in this whole thing.
Yeah, so the state was first. That happened. I remember it vividly because we were doing our vacation Bible school at Hope Church in 1970, Charles Hardy Parkway in Dallas, Georgia, placeofhope.org. That's my shameless plug. It can be edited out, whatever. Anyway, so we were doing our vacation Bible school, and you're exactly right. We got a notice that our adoption case had been put on pause by the United States, specifically by the state of Georgia, because we had a red flag in our file that we had been investigated for child endangerment and potential leading to the death of a child. Now, we had already been exonerated. I mean, that process only took 2 or 3 days with the GBI and DFACS and everything else. But our file still had a red flag in it, and we were never informed of that. And so we kept trying to reach out to DFACS and to the officials in both Bartow County, where we lived at the time, and then in Paulding County, where we live now. And we were getting the runaround that there really wasn't anybody or anything that could be done about this red flag in our file. And I remember calling y'all and say, do you have anybody you can get a hold of? Is there anybody you can reach out and help me with? And that was really the first time Outer Circle jumped into our adoption process.
So, but wasn't it that it was never closed?
Correct.
That's what it was, right?
Yeah.
So you guys were exonerated, but nobody just hit the close button.
Correct.
And that's all it needed.
That's it.
Was just that one little simple thing. And, you think about all the investigations that we worked and how many times, if we had an investigation that would stay open for, let alone 4 years, but, 30 days or 60 days, I mean, what's going on? And how this fell through the cracks is just beyond.
And I forget who it was that finally made the call, but who you got in touch with. But we ended up having Congressman Barry Loudermilk and former Congressperson Marjorie Taylor Greene on the case, and they were working their angles from Washington, D.C., and you had people that you knew in the state government. And so this child's story becomes, and it gets global here in a few minutes, but it became national because we had Congress people who were working on our behalf for her, which was astonishing. And I think you'd reached out to the governor's office. If I remember correctly, you'd reached out to the governor's office on our behalf, and that got the ball rolling. And so finally, between the governor's office and the two representatives in our counties, we were able to finally get our case closed. But I remember somebody telling us, we don't submit letters to say that your case has been closed, but Taiwan would not accept our file until they had a letter. And somebody barked up the right tree, rattled the right cage or whatever. And finally we ended up with a letter that was with the governor's office seal on it that said we had been completely cleared of any suspicion of wrongdoing in Mia's passing.
And the minute that door closes, the next one opens, and we had to jump through
The next hoop.
Another hoop.
That's right.
That was there with the judge.
This was major.
Yeah.
This was major.
Yeah.
And so this really speaks to, not just the local, national, but the global reach that Outer Circle has. Because what ended up happening was one of the officials in Taiwan in the court system said that they were not going to sign off on our adoption of the child that we would eventually adopt until the mother had an opportunity to sign off on it, which didn't make any sense to me because she had already had all of her parental rights revoked for all the children that she had.
Right.
They couldn't find her. She was, as I mentioned, she was homeless. And so they had no idea what to do. And so what the judge did was give the counterparts of DFACS over in Taipei City 30 days to locate the mother to have her signed off. And I remember we were all going down for a gathering in Atlanta, first Wednesday in August, and we get this call. It's just about a week or 2 weeks after we had the situation with the red flag in our file. And we were just dumbfounded. And we kept trying everything we could think of, but there was no answer until one of you came up with an idea and made a call over to Taipei.
Yep. So we went through one of our guys and said, that's fine. We will let you do your thing. We're going to do our thing. And we are going to put a detective on
Finding this mom.
And when we find her, then we will do what we need to do. And you guys do your thing. And they did not like that at all.
They considered severing the entire adoption process when we started talking about private investigators and Outer Circle get involved with the investigators over there in Taiwan through the State Department.
Right. But then all of a sudden, lo and behold, it was just cleared up instantaneously. As soon as we started rattling those cages, it was freed up. And I remember, because it was the end of her 30 days would have been Labor Day weekend for us in the States. And it was on Labor Day, we got the call that said, "You're not going to believe this. The mother was just found." And I was like, "No, I believe it. I believe it." There's part of me that said, "I don't believe that it took this long." Right.
But the whole process of getting other officials involved, it made it happen. And I don't want to make anything sound negative about the adoption agency or the system over there, because they were all doing what they had to do. But you know how bureaucracies can be sometimes. And I grew up with a father who worked in one. Sometimes you just continue to run into that bureaucratic red tape, and you need someone with the right type of resources and connections who can speak into a situation and get the bureaucrats off of just the black and white and into the realm of the living. And once that happened, it was miraculous. And so once we got the glide path set there right on Labor Day weekend, we decided that we were going to name her Brighton. After the city in, I say Chicago, but the city outside Cheyenne and Denver, where we got the call about her. And then her middle name is Celeste. And so Brighton means my beautiful, and Celeste means heavenly light. And she is our beautiful heavenly light. And her story involves local officials, national officials, State Department officials in the American Institute in Taiwan. It was quite an amazing story.
So you get on the plane and off you go. And I mean, just that experience you were sending us videos and you were
every day
doing all kinds, not us, but the church and everybody was getting all kinds of things. And, but I think if I recall correctly, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you were like the first man that she had seen in a long time, or maybe ever. Yeah. Right. So she probably had interacted with other males, because they did have male officials working in the orphanage over there. Right. But the chances of her having seen someone of European descent, I don't think she had ever seen a male like that. Now, she had seen the adoption agency sent physicians and therapists over there, so she had seen people with that looked more like me than looked more like her. Right. But probably was the first time she had seen a male that looked like me. And she was scared. She was terrified of me, would not let me around her almost for the entirety of the time we were in Taiwan. And that loosened up by the time we got home. The roles kind of flipped. Right. And she gravitated toward me, which was beautiful. And she still is my little girl. Wrapped around my finger, I'm wrapped around her finger like crazy. Right. But that's a huge piece of it as well. Yeah. So now let's kind of fill everybody in on where she is now and what's going on. And she's in Hope Preschool,
thriving. Perfectly healthy. So we did take her through all the batteries and tests and things. And the reason I say that is her birth family had some, it's a pretty rare genetic disorder that's in her family tree. It's not really major. It could lead to some impaired hearing and vision and things like that, but that really is about all it was. But even though she does have the markers of some of those, like lighter colored eyes and some lighter colored spots on her skin, she has no evidence of any of that syndrome in her body, except for just the appearance.
Right.
And so that was great. So we went through about 3 or 4 months of that kind of testing. And once she was cleared, the church, the preschool allowed her to come in. And so, she's been home going on 2 years, about a year and a half now. It'll be 2 years in August. And she's thriving. She has, I think, doubled in size since we got her home. She was pocket sized, but now getting nutrition and getting the proper amount of rest, the schedule, the love, the nurture, she has just taken off. And one of the things that's funny is, we have counter height counters in the house, and for the longest time she was able to just run under the counters and things, and then one day suddenly she wasn't just nicking them with the top of her head, she was hitting them square in the forehead. She's like, what's going on? But she just was growing so rapidly, and now she's fully attached to her family, her mom, her dad, her brother, her grandmothers. She lost the only other grandfather she had about a year ago almost to the day, but she's just totally part of our family. And one of the things that's so hysterical is when she goes to the church preschool twice a week, when she walks in the door, she's either really, really timid and she'll hold on to my legs like, don't leave me alone. Or she walks in, she's like, here I am. You're welcome. My presence is here. And so it's hysterical. And, but it's so sweet. And to see how, that old saying, I remember probably learning about it from being a child, the blood is thicker than water, but to see that love is even thicker than blood, and how this child is ours, and just her expressions, her tone of voice and things, she really, really is ours. Even though she was born some 8,000 miles away, she really is ours. So I'll joke, her orchard might have been 8,000 miles away, but that apple didn't fall far from the tree. She loves technology. She loves superheroes. And she was talking to me yesterday. I was watching the preseason Braves game. She wanted me to take her to a ball game. I was like, you got it. You got it.
So shifting to Ethan.
Yes.
So Ethan graduates high school. And where does he go to college? And what's he studying? And he just recently graduated, and kind of fill everybody in on that.
Yeah. So Ethan's story is pretty unique. I'll back up really quickly, because when he was young and we were going through the fertility challenges, I would pray for God to give us our miracle child. And at some point along the way, Tiff and I both realized, my wife's name's Tiffany, I don't think I mentioned it yet, but both realized we have our miracle child. And so there was a piece that came when we transitioned from biological family expansion to adoption family expansion. And Ethan, when we first started that process with Mia, he was about 11 years old. He was really excited. He was about 13 when we finally got to the point of bringing Mia home. And so that was a tough time for him. He'd been an only child for so long. And it was hard integrating a kid sister. But I tell you what, that boy just fell in love with that little girl. We went to the beach just about 2 weeks before she passed away, and they were swimming with each other in the pool, and she was holding on him and he was playing with her. And I looked at him one day and I asked him, you cherish this, don't you? And teenage boy was like, yes. But he did. But anyway, so I just had to say that because it's so important. And he seriously grieved the loss of his sister. But just when he was born, he's part of the class of 2020. And so he lost his sister, and then COVID hits. It hit the weekend before his senior prom. So his senior prom was canceled. And then his graduation was postponed. We ended up doing it at the very end of July, which by that point, just about I imagine just about everybody had moved on from the chaos that was the COVID response. And so we did graduation and stuff. We celebrated it, but he was admitted over to Kennesaw State University, summa cum laude. He was top of his class, or at the top of his class. But around that same time too, Ethan ended up running into some medical issues.
So let's go into that day. Because that's a day.
That's a day.
That is a day.
So to paint the picture, Tiffany's dad had just passed away, and the family was coming in town to get ready for the memorial service. And it was a Thursday afternoon. Ethan was getting off work just a little bit early because he was in the middle of midterm exams. And there were probably 4 or 5 places that I was supposed to be, but after the loss of Tiffany's dad, and just, of course, Brighton was still brand new,
Yep.
and Tiffany had spent a lot of time helping her dad and her family. We were pulled in so many different directions, and emotionally it was hard. I said, you know what? I'm going to knock off early today. I'm going to go home. And I was sitting in my recliner, had Brighton in my lap, and we're waiting on the family to descend to the house for the memorial service. And I happened to look, not here, but I looked into the corner of our house in our stairwell, and there was a cobweb. And so I go to get a brush on an extension pole so I could knock down the cobweb, because I didn't want the family to see it. And I go out into the garage, and I noticed the garage door was up, and Ethan's car was there parked. The door was open, but he was making these very strange rhythmic motions, and I start calling out to him, Ethan, Ethan. And then he threw his head back, and his hands went back, and I was taken back to where I'd been with Mia. It was obvious he was having a seizure. Now, no history of seizures that we were aware of, except when he was a tiny baby. He did have some febrile seizures. We didn't think anything of that. He grew out of that by the time he was 4 years old, probably 5 years old at the absolute latest. And so here, after what we had gone through with losing Mia and how tragic that was, having Brighton home was happy, but also losing Tiffany's dad, that was really, really hard on us, because he had a long illness. It just sent us into a tailspin. I went out to the car, and Ethan's, he's a big boy. He's a bit larger than I am, and I couldn't budge him. And then he just collapsed on the steering wheel, and he was suffering, struggling to breathe. And some of that superhero strength that you hear about, I was able to reach in and just pull him out of the car like he weighed 25, 30 pounds. Laid him on the driveway, and of course I was screaming so loud neighbors were coming out to check on us, and Tiffany was able to get 911 called. And so we went to Kenneth Stone Hospital, and he went through all kinds of batteries of testing, and doctors couldn't find anything wrong. We figured it was probably just stress from midterms, stress from losing the grandfather. He was having some interpersonal issues with a friend of his. We just figured it was a culmination of events that were really challenging. And but then he started having seizures almost every month, like clockwork, and tragic ones where there's one where he fell in his bedroom, and just because of the nature of epilepsy, pulled furniture down on him, and he's suffering. And Tiffany and I are in there trying to pull bookshelves and things off of him, and he's had 2 where he fell in the shower, and it was just devastating. But one of those other little miracle things is that we were y'all had so graciously let us stay at your place down in Florida, and we were down there, and when he had one of the seizures in the shower. And so the ambulance took him to the hospital, and it was a hospital down there that coordinated with other medical practices and experts in Florida. And they were able to realize that he was deficient in phosphates, one of the antioxidants, and the words escape me right now, but he was deficient in one. And so they boosted him up and then changed his medication. And he had one more seizure right after that. But after that, once he got titrated off of the one medication that wasn't working and put onto the one that was working, he's been great ever since. And so the law in the state of Georgia is that once you have a seizure, you have to start a clock of 6 months. And so his last seizure was September 2nd. So this Saturday, March 1st, he will complete his 6 months, and he'll be able to have all of his restrictions lifted. We're taking him to the doctor on Wednesday for one last battery of tests to make sure that everything lined up. But that was the issue. They were never able to find anything wrong. All the MRIs, CAT scans, x-rays, EEGs, EKGs, everything came back fine until they realized that he was just deficient in this one little mineral. They boosted him up, changed his medication. He's been great ever since.
So
another outer circle connection.
While all of this is going on, Tiff had some issues as well. To compound everything on top of everything.
Everything on top of everything.
And if we don't want to talk about that, that's fine.
That's fine.
Is that okay?
Yeah, sure.
So when did that all begin in the mix of the kind of the timeline here?
It was all happening simultaneously. She was having having some digestive issues, but then she would also have these terrible attacks that the doctors were thinking were pancreatitis attacks. She would be tested and everything would be fine. And so we were just, I used the word vexed because we couldn't figure out what it was. And they continued to progress. And on New Year's Eve, this past year, New Year's Eve, we were sure she was having something akin to a heart attack. And it cleared within about 30 minutes or so. And then the following Sunday, she had another one that I was sure was a heart attack. I was sure it was a heart attack. So we rushed her to the hospital. And they found out that her gallbladder had failed. And the surgeon said that it probably had been causing her problems for decades. And so she had years and years of just unexplained illnesses that were debilitating in nature. And no one was able to figure it out. The doctor said, yeah, her gallbladder's bad. And so he went in and he removed it. But he also realized that one of the things that, in his expert opinion, that was causing the acute illness was that she had gallstones that had escaped her gallbladder and had blocked off her bile duct. And so it was causing just extreme pain, extreme illness. And she was trying to be mother to a brand new adopted daughter. She was trying to be mother to a son who was wrestling with sort of some existential crises with his health and just life in general at that age. Trying to be wife, trying to be daughter, trying to be sister. And so finally, it was just about 2 weeks ago, we were finally able to get that cleared out. But she's also battled cancer.
She's a cancer survivor.
Cancer survivor. That might know where you're going first. But yeah, cancer survivor, and then the gallbladder things. And they are all probably connected at some level. But I tell you what, she had that surgery 2 weeks ago today, actually. 2 weeks ago today. And she has been in remarkable health. Once her recovery really picked up, she's been in remarkable health. And she's trying to figure out, foods that are sensitive, causing sensitivities. But right now, with the exception of one or two little minor things, she's feeling the best that she's felt in a very, very long time. And I remember sitting in the doctor's office, and the doctor's like, "Yeah, you've probably been battling this for decades, at varying levels of severity." And so
Craziness.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
So now on to a happier note.
Yeah.
So you gave us a little bit of information on Sunday. Being a bulldog,
That's right.
you are now going to shift your colors because
we found out on Friday that Ethan has been accepted into a master's program at Georgia Tech in Atlanta, and he is going to be studying computer and human interactions, computer engineering with computer and human interactions. And I tell you what, when he brought that acceptance letter up Friday, you could just see on his face that he was overwhelmed with emotion, and I'm overwhelmed with emotion. I could barely even speak Friday, which, you're listening to this, you probably realize that's hard to imagine. But I was just so overwhelmed with emotion to think about where all we had been within the past year. And he'd gone back and forth about applying for a master's program because of his health. And finally, he came, and he didn't even tell us he was going to do it, because last we had heard he wasn't going to. And he finally came to that conclusion. You know what? I at least need to see. And so he applied, and then he told us a couple of days later. But the thing that just was so awesome, that speaks to my pride level in him, was that Georgia Tech accepted him before the deadline for applications had even concluded. And in the letter, they just said your qualifications, your experience, your interest perfectly matches up with what we want in our students. And so, lifelong Bulldog fan. Like I said, my mom and dad met there, but as soon as we got that news, I hop on Amazon and order all of this Georgia Tech t-shirts. And I said, I'm going to be wearing that stuff with pride. I'll still bark like a dog, but I'll sting like a bee if I need to.
That is fantastic. That is fantastic.
It's going to be interesting when Georgia and Georgia Tech play each other. You have to sit in the middle.
That's right. But I'll do it. Well, and in all fairness, Tiffany's the middle sister married a Georgia Tech alum, and so I'm not so. I love the Bulldogs so much that I couldn't like Georgia Tech. But I'm always, except when they play, I want Georgia to win. But this year, you never know. It may be a divided loyalty to see where Ethan wants to land in the game. But we watch it every year.
So how long is the program?
I think it's about a 2-year program.
Is it?
And it's it's more self-paced than some because it's going to be pretty intensive with some of the engineering classes.
Yeah.
And so I think it's a minimum of 2 years, but he will, like the first semester too, I think he's just going to take one class and try to get into the engineering side of it because he did more information IT systems in college, and engineering is going to be a different discipline.
Yeah. And that is, man, when you said that, that's just fantastic.
Yeah.
I mean, everything, right? You guys have been battling. I mean, attacks have been coming left and right and all over the place. And now it's just like God, boom, hit that staff and it cleared.
Yeah. Yeah. Part of the sea.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we're all out of the woods. We'll take Tiffany for her follow-up to get cleared by the surgeon tomorrow and Ethan to get cleared by the epileptologist on Wednesday. After that, by the time we get to March, hopefully we're going to celebrate a new year.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
Wow.
So what's on the horizon for you? What are you going to do come 2026?
That's a really good question that syncs up well with the season that we're in the church. We parts of the way Hope Church lives its faith is we do have some roots in liturgical settings, and we're observing the season of Lent.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that I've really been working hard with since Ash Wednesday last week, and really today as well, is I'm focusing in on the prodigal son. Not that I was a wayward and all that other stuff, but there were parts of my faith that were challenged so dramatically. I never lost faith in God, but I was really living into how could such bad things continue to happen to me. And I would say, I'm sure you've heard me say it over and over again, I don't want to equate myself with Job, but I was identifying with that in some regard. We weren't just struggling, we were suffering with the loss of family member, the loss of Ethan's freedom and loss of his health, and that's being restored, we believe, and then trying to integrate this new child in our family. So anyway, to answer your question is, I'm really working on coming back to the heart of God and realizing that our suffering isn't separating us from God. If anything, it's helping to clarify our relationship and our need for God. And so I look at it from so many different angles, professionally, relationally, faithfully, how all of it is coming to bring us back to the heart of the Creator that is continuing to chase after us, to challenge the way that we think and change us to be more like Jesus. And so those three little CH words, I've been really focusing on that last 10 days or so. God, I know you're chasing me, and I want to be met where I am. I want you to change the way that I'm thinking about my life and the way I'm thinking about my direct family, my inner circle. But also I want to be changed to be more like Jesus. And so some of that, there's some pruning going on about some things that I'm turning loose of, just attachments I have in life, just basic things that they're inconsequential to really living a life of faith and hope and love. And so that's how I'm focusing right now. And so one of the things I'm diving back into the scriptures. I would really like to read through the Bible, not just this year, but between now and Easter Sunday. That's my goal. Try to get through that and really try to get back to the heart of God and the why we are where we are, even in the face of suffering. Because it is about refining that relationship where we realize God is God and we are not. I am not. And that's a big struggle. I think it's one of our biggest existential struggles as a human being.
And from Reboot, right? I mean, it is moral injury.
Yes.
I mean, it's injury of the soul. It's
100%.
not just trauma. It's deep trauma. It is just like you said, how could this all happen? Right? How does it all happen? But as you often say, right, it is in order, you got to go through the fire in order to get out. And you come out better than you came in.
That's right.
And you use those messages to be your message. And that's Markism right there. And I use that all the time. She'll be the first one to tell you.
Well, the whole moral injury thing. And I had a friend of mine who's a combat veteran too. Mentioned that to me right after Mia passed away. He says part of that moral injury, and I'd never heard of that or experienced it before, was when you do everything right. From the military sense, you're following orders. In our sense, we were doing everything right, and it all goes to pot anyway. And you have to deal with, to use the book of Job, Job sitting in the ashes, the rubble of his life.
Right.
And that was where I was identifying with that so at the time I was still in United Methodist Church, they put Tiffany and me through like a marriage boot camp type thing because of the high odds of family couples that lose children and divorce. They did not want that to happen to us. And we're perfectly happy and safe in our marriage. That's great. It was never an issue. But he pulled me aside one day and he said, Mark, you're mad at God and you need to say that. And I'm sure I've said to y'all too, I didn't think being mad at God was anything I could be or do. I thought that I had already elevated beyond such feeble feelings. I thought I'd already surpassed all that, enlightenments. No, I was really mad. And it came to a point where I was like, and I joke about it now, but I legitimately was saying, God, after all that I did, we tried to raise a family and we had all the pregnancy loss. We got into adoption. We know that at the heart of the gospel is caring for widows and orphans, defending the cause of the fatherless. So we got into that. We made it part of our life story, our ministry, not just Mia and then Brighton, but we also had been involved in helping children, orphans around the world, in Africa, in India, in the United States. We had done so much. And I guess there was a part of me that still, that human, the flesh, Jesus said the spirit is willing, the flesh is weak, that felt like I deserved some kind of preferential treatment. And, but one of the things that really just slayed me, and using another Job topic again, but when Jesus is in the Garden of Gethsemane and he says, my soul is sorrowful unto death. And I can remember feeling that as I was beginning to come out of some of that intense grief after Mia had passed away. And Jesus was talking about how the grief that was being laid on him with sin and all of the pain in the world was grieving him to the point where he just felt like he could die. And he just felt like he could just curl up and go. And then I thought about Elijah in the cave. And I thought, you know what, if Elijah in the Old Testament, Jesus in the New Testament experienced that, why am I to think I'm any better or any different? And so those types of things really help to refine my story and to help me come to a point where I can see that, as I like to, Mark is like to quit, oftentimes people look at death as though it's a dead end, but to Jesus, it's a doorway. And so, and all of the deaths that we experienced, losing my dad, Ethan was on the way, losing Tiffany's dad, Brighton was already here. And then now with Ethan's epilepsy, and he's coming out to a point where he's got a whole brand new lease on life. And the pride and the depth that I feel in terms of being a husband and a father and a son and a brother and a pastor pales in comparison to what it could have been even a year ago without some of the hell that I've gone through. And so divine hindsight is 2020, and I see God's fingerprints are all over me. And it was people like y'all and the Outer Circle Foundation that refused to let me go when I wanted to just go hightail it.
But I just had a conversation with somebody just a little while ago, and it is often, I think, the human side that I want this to change, take this away, whatever, instead of what are you teaching me? Right? There's something here. There's a reason why I'm going through this. And, at the end of the day, I don't know it. Right? And one of the things that I told him was I'll get to a point where I just look and I don't know what to do. I don't know where to go. I don't know what to say, but I know you do. Just show me, tell me, or whatever. I don't know what it is, but you do. But then, the critical piece out of that is after you do that is pausing and stopping enough to let him do what he does. Right. And we often don't. It's just, all right, I don't know what to do, but do it. Because I got 40,000 other things and I'm just going to turn it over to you. And then maybe I'll get back to that next week when I think about it again. No, you have to pause and stop at that point.
Absolutely. It's interesting as you say that. I think about Jesus too in the Garden of Gethsemane. when he's praying to the Father, and it's, if this cup can pass from me, please, but not my will, your will be done. And so much of my the theological term is hermeneutic about how it is I read the scripture really is in the garden. It's the Garden of Eden, the temptation narrative of Adam and Eve in the fall, but then also the garden narrative where Jesus is praying with the disciples about suffering. And so I feel so much of that bookending my spirit about the temptation that I have to want things to go my way right away, all the time. And then the surrender to suffering and realize that it isn't just suffering for suffering's sake. It's suffering for the sake of God molding and shaping us into the image of his son, Jesus.
And there's a reason he's doing it. It could be that there's something coming up and we need this in order to get through that. There could be something of, I need to slow you down because I have something better for you. Or this is not the right thing and we're going to stop this in order to wait until we can get to that. And you'll see what that is, and you'll see how better it is, because your mind can't get to there until we get to there. And then you might not even know what's going on, but eventually you'll go, oh.
So, that's so profound, because taking Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane, he's praying, God, if you can take this away from me. But then when he sees the temple guard coming to arrest him, he's resolute. He had no question. I mean, I don't know how much time passed. There's just a couple verses there, but Jesus was resolute. He was okay. I know this is what I'm going to do. I know I'm not doing it alone, and I'm going to go through it. And I know that there's going to be purpose in this pain.
It's, we could talk hours on this, which we have, and trust me. Okay. Hope Church, you guys,
that's right.
March 28th, we got Hope for Hot Rods.
That's right.
There's pork butts for sale right now. Taking pre-orders. And I can tell you that if you like pork butt, probably one of the best I've ever had.
Absolutely.
I mean, Bobby and the crew that are making these are absolutely fantastic. And more food than I think we ate off of that for a long time.
Oh yeah. It's I forget the average size, but it's it's substantial.
Right.
So it's great. And it's they have so Bobby works with a nonprofit called Helping Hands Ministry Barbecue, and so they go and they do meals like this for disaster relief. They did it during some of the recent hurricanes. They've done it for homeless ministries. So they do it for our Hope and Hot Rods, and our Hope and Hot Rods car show helps to fund our Christmas for Cameroon ministry, which is we provide Christmas gifts to children, orphans in Cameroon, Africa. They've been orphaned either by disease or violence. And so we provide Christmas for them, toys, gently used clothes, school supplies, hygiene items. And so we do that, and the numbers grow every single year. And the more support that we get through the car show, the more we can do for the orphans in Cameroon. And last year, the Hardy family auto dealerships got involved, and this year they are our primary sponsor, just to help us continue to do more for these children all the way around the world who need that hope and help of Christ.
But I mean, Hope Church also got involved recently with the airlift into Jamaica after the hurricane, right? And we had 2 gigantic boxes that went down via Brian Stover's plane. And it went down directly into Jamaica, into the families and everything that was down there.
That's right.
So, I mean, hitting all kinds of different areas of places that need help. But back to the hot rods. So I see you will have a pick, the pastor's pick. Kids will have a pick. And then how many different awards do we give out?
I forget exactly how many different awards it is, but the kids get a pick, the pastor has a pick, and I think it's like the overall choice.
Okay.
And so there are different ways that we vote on that. But the trophies, for those who car gurus, they're custom built for this event. The ones last year the last 2 years have been fantastic. This year promises to be even bigger and better. I can't wait to see how they turn out.
The only way I can describe them is if you've seen the movie Cars with the piston cup. It reminds me something along those lines, and that's all I'll say. Is just that. But
totally unique.
They are awesome. But it is a great day because cars come in from everywhere. And they're all over the place.
Classic cars, hot rods. We have
Gun Jeep.
Yep.
I mean, he's usually always there. and then all kinds of different things.
Yes, we have a group, the Volkswagen enthusiasts. So we'll have some classic VWs out there. We also have some Mustang enthusiasts, and it's great. All kinds of food trucks and vendors, crafts, and things like that. It's a fantastic day, and it goes to a great cause because the work that we're able to do to help support orphans, but also promote the gospel in Cameroon, Africa, is amazing.
Yeah. And just going to Christmas for Cameroon, just for those that are listening, it's July or August, right? We pack up.
Yes.
And it takes that long to get everything there. And then we have a team that heads to Cameroon and is there to distribute. And we get all of those videos back. And holy moly, that is one fantastic video that we wait and get right about Christmas.
You're right. I mean, it usually is happening just by the skin of our teeth with getting things that has to be shipped over there. And then it always takes time to clear customs. And because the climate in Cameroon is so unpredictable right now, usually only natives or citizens or people who have visas can get in. So it's hard for people to get in. So it's usually right under the gun. And so I think it was this year, Christmas Eve. I got the video where they had distributed it. And so we were rushing to get it ready and turned around to produce it, to have it in our Christmas Eve services. But all the way up until Christmas Eve, that stuff was being in transit. And so, we usually make it part of our Vacation Bible School mission and collection. We try to get it out the door by the first week or so in August. And it takes until usually Christmas Eve to get everything sorted and distributed.
And then how many kids do we have now on the backpack program? Do we, it's a lot.
It's our church alone. I think we're serving almost 120. I think the last number I saw was 114, but, and we also are helping a couple other families that are not connected to it through the school system, through our preschool. Is really what it is, through our preschool. So I think we're upwards of 120 families that Hope Church provides meals for every single week of the school year. And then during the summertime, we partner with Kaya Ministries in Paulding County, and then we help to do the summer lunch, summer feeding program. So almost 52 weeks out of the year, Hope Church is involved in feeding the sheep of Jesus right here in our community. And of course, we also participate in Thanksgiving and Christmas outreach as well.
So, I mean, just a ton of different things. Is there anything on the agenda after Hope for Hot Rods? I can't remember.
Well, of course, Easter.
Easter.
But I mean, Easter. That'll be the big thing. Once we get done with Easter, then we'll start moving our focus over to like the end of the preschool year. We'll get our graduates done, graduation Sunday. We'll recognize graduates at the church. And then usually by the time first week of June comes around, then we're ramping up into summer camp for the kids, summer camp for the youth, Vacation Bible School. And Hope Church does run a summer camp as well. So summer camp on the property, as well as sending our own older children and our youth group off to various camps and mission trips. And so it's constantly busy, turning out something. And we are planning to do Hope for Heroes again this year. But we're going to do it a little different. We're going to do, because last year you had, what's the church right up on the left-hand side? Westridge?
Westridge did one, the Chamber did one, and we did one. So we're all trying to talk to each other and see how we can do it together. And whatever that looks like, I don't know yet. Stacy's at the Chamber is trying to figure that one out. But we are going to do something, and we will continue to do something. Through Chris, we're doing Fishing for Freedom at the end of May. We have our golf outing on April 30th at Dogwood. And then you are one of our reboot counselors. And we'll continue to do that. So we're going to do a couple of programs this year. And so that and I cannot even believe that we're in March already. And you just even brought up June. And before you know it, it's going to be kind of Thanksgiving and Christmas all over again.
Absolutely.
You blink and it's gone.
Yeah, it's hard to believe. So tomorrow being the last Tuesday of February, our staff will do a planning meeting that will take us through the end of the school year in the first part of the summer. But we're constantly churning and we have to think a quarter out. Otherwise, we'll just get left behind.
So closing thoughts, anything for those?
Well, I appreciate the opportunity to tell my story because I like to think of it as a very
Oh,
real life story.
Yeah.
It's because the last thing I would ever want to present, sometimes you just get these little stories that I put on social media when I write devotions or the sermon. You don't really get to the depth of the suffering and the challenge that all of that was to my soul and to my faith.
Yeah.
And even in ways that I wasn't fully appreciating until I had to come to grips with the reality. You know what? I really was angry.
Yeah.
And I felt like I deserved some type of special treatment because of who I was or what I'd done. And I always am trying to remind myself and then remind people whenever I have opportunity to deliver messages that it's not about who we are or what we've done. It's about who Christ is and what he did for us.
Yeah.
That's the reason that we live. And that's the relationship connecting point with God. And it's so easy for us to miss that focus.
Yep.
And I think the fact that sin is a 3-letter word with I in the middle is just a perfect descriptor of how it is that we see the world. I mean, our worldview tends to be as human beings that the world should revolve around us.
Yep.
And it can be extraordinarily painful when we realize that it doesn't.
Oh yeah.
And then that fight to try to wrestle it back. Yep. And then to finally surrender. And so I guess the closing thought, the suffering to surrender is exactly what Jesus did. But in that surrender becomes a resoluteness that says, okay, I know that I am working for God. I know that God has a plan and a purpose for my life. And suffering is a part of that.
Yep.
Because now, just in my story and things that we've talked about before too, is you have an opportunity to meet someone in their suffering at a heart and a human level that someone who hasn't gone through that hell that you walked through can connect with. And so now I can talk to families who've lost children in ways that someone who hasn't experienced that kind of loss has or can. And so it's, but also about adoption and all kinds of other things. But that's the realness of the story, of my life story that I want to present so that people can realize that there is hope and help on the other side of it. And so much of it, you get back to the Outer Circle Foundation, is to sync up and link up with people in your world, in your orbit, who can help you with things that you could never get to on your own. And not to recap the whole story, but the mother being lost in Taiwan and the government here in the state of Georgia not working to try to help us clear up a case that had been closed, just to close it in a computer, hit a button somewhere. The fact that y'all were able to step in without our circle with your resources is extraordinary. And it speaks to the body of Christ that we all have a role to play to help make sure that God's glory is presented and promoted.
And Buff and I are convinced that God has allowed us to build skills and networks and things to help others.
Yeah.
And now he's like, go and do. Just you guys go. And I've given you this. Just go make it happen.
Yeah. Go ye into the world and make disciples of Jesus. Teaching and baptizing them in the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. That's right.
Absolutely. Well, amen. So everyone, we'll see you again on our next edition of Chicken Dude Stuff podcast. You get that, Whitney? Chicken Dude Stuff, not Chicken Dude and Stuff. So, anyway, but Mark, thanks so much. It was a pleasure having you.